You're listening to the Fitzy and Whipper podcast.
Geez, didn't we go into panic yesterday? I mean, the people of Mossman went into their houses, their mansions, just to get away from the lions around Taronga.
The beautiful boutiques in Military Road, I mean, they started bolting inside.
Tommy Williams did the opposite. He texted me. He was out there trying to tackle them. He said, if I see him, I'll get them for you, Fitz.
I'll go hard. One of them was wearing a handbag after a while that had been shopping on Military Road.
Tell you what, we did see vision yesterday of them checking a certain part of the fence there, and they found digging marks. They're cunning, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
At some stage, this is the thing. I mean, there's been escapes around zoos all across the world. The chimps are pretty good at it. The orangutans, they're pretty smart. They know how to get out.
It makes sense that they could get out.
But the lions got out. Now, if you were staying at the zoo with the Roar and Snore overnight, at 4 a.m, you were woken to hear the lions roaring, but little did you know that they were quite near you. This is the thing. They were woken up, everyone in their Roar and Snore tents. You got 30 seconds to grab your stuff and get out of here. This is code 1. One man who was in one of those tents is Magnus with his kids and his family. Magnus, welcome to the Fitzy and Whipper Show.
Thank you and good morning.
Magnus, amazing that you're now familiar with the term Code 1 at a zoo. Can you talk us through the first moment you realised there was a bit of an issue? Where were you and what happened?
So I was inside a tent and woke up at about 6:30. I was 6:15 in the morning. And about 20 to 7, there was a sound alarm going on over the zoo, and the zookeepers came down running, screaming, "Code 1, everyone out of the tent. This is an emergency. Code 1, run, go."
Gosh.
What did you think had happened, Magnus? Like, what was the first thought in your mind?
I was just grateful it wasn't Code Brown, you know what I mean?
Well, he would have turned into Magnus, I would have thought.
There would have been in the back of your strides, Magnus. So were the kids crying? Were they freaking out, or everyone was quite calm?
No, look, we didn't know what was going on there. We just did what we were told, and we ran up to that little toilet area, like a safe house.
Yeah.
They counted us, and they locked the door, and that's when I realized if they're locking the door, there's going to be something wrong here. No one knew what it was still, and even the zookeeper said, this is probably only a drill. We do them every now and then, typically in the morning,
yes.
before the guests arrive and so on. But we heard them on the radio, like the zookeepers that were outside, and some of them said, I can't find them. And that's when I realized, well, two of them.
I can't find them.
Magnus, you got the ultimate package, though. You got the best. You got the Roar Snore, and they're at your back door package. They're right there. So are you happy with what you got overnight?
Yeah, apart from the screaming when I got out of the tent and the blood that was squirting everywhere, and,
no.
I'm only lying.
No.
You're lying.
Oh, my God.
These are great.
I would suggest this is nor your first interview. Magnus, loving the 15 minutes of fame. So quite quickly, were you moved and ushered outside of the zoo walls?
No, so they got it under control, and I think one of the lions, they had to put a tranquilizer thing on. And eventually they let us out and said, it's all over, everything's under control. Yeah. And we actually went up to have breakfast, and we got a brief from the general manager, and they were really good.
Right.
I even said to him, I think they handled this so well.
Yeah.
They followed protocol, and everything was like a checklist sort of thing.
Hey, did the kids get a fluffy toy on the way out? Did they give you a free one, Magnus?
No. I didn't ask for it.
What about another night, Roar and Snore? You'd have to get a freebie there, wouldn't you?
Didn't cross my mind to ask for it.
Magnus, what a moment. Like, it's not often these situations arise. Every now and then, like you were saying, thank you for joining us, Magnus, you do hear these stories, Fitz, of an animal getting out.
This is, you know what, there was 2021, I forgot about this one, but there was the chimp escape in Taronga.
That's right.
That was only a year, that was January last year. Chimpanzee squatting behind the perimeter of the enclosure at the African savannah area. What about this one? The Mogo Zoo on New South Wales South Coast. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the lions, Jamelia, escaped from there. That was a zookeeper error, and about 35 elderly visitors were on the grounds at the time, with this 190-kilogram lion just walking around. Unfortunately, they had to shoot the lion on that one. I know. That was a really sad one. There was an Adelaide Zoo one with an orangutan as well. There's a lot of these from around the world. There was one orangutan called Ken the orangutan in San Diego.
Go, Ken.
And he was known. He escaped from the zoo about 12 times in the 80s, Sarah.
Oh, my God. He moved in. He got an Airbnb and just fitted in with the community.
He was so good, he would use other orangutans to put off the zookeepers as he was making the escape.
Clever. I went to a zoo once, and this was in sort of country Victoria, and it was a small zoo. I didn't even know that they had a zoo there. It was in a town called Mansfield. Anyway, it was sort of an open plain zoo, but they had a big population of deer. I don't know what you call a collective noun for deer, a pack of deer. Let's call it a paddock of deer. There was heaps of deers in this paddock, and then they had 2 lions, right?
Yeah.
And the lions were in this crappy cage, you might call it, enclosure, which had been patched together at times with chicken wire, right? It didn't look like it could hold a lion at all. The problem with it was, though, is when you go to this zoo, you then buy a bucket of food and you walk around and the deer eat the food.
Right.
So you can walk down to the lion enclosure, which you did, and you can stand right on the fence and have a look at the lions. There's a lion standing there on one side of the enclosure, one side of the fence, and I'm on the other. Outside, there's 20 deer trying to eat the food out of my bucket. The lion is looking at the deer, going, there's a smorgasbord of Bambi.
Was
right
there a moat in between you? Was there any water? No, it was
moat.
just a fence.
Awesome. It was unbelievable. And I was there with a girlfriend at the time. The lion then, up on its hind feet, roars and grabs onto the fence.
Yeah.
Gone. I was gone. I ran. For my life.
King of the jungle, just protecting your girlfriend at the time.
Yeah. Could have got eaten. The deers
Did
could have
you
got
grab
eaten.
her?
No. I left her there for food. She needed to be the sacrificial bait. And I was just hot-footing it out of there.
Simba over here.
You never ever feed a deer outside a lion enclosure, is what I've said for years now.
So tough,
I've said that for
mate.
years.
You're listening to the Fitzy and Whipper podcast.